What's going on, y'all? And welcome to another episode of Resilient Kings Podcast.
Whoa. Now you about to start some controversy.
I am your host, Yaron Brown.
Hold on a minute. This is a Resilient King alert. Resilient King alert. You ain't gonna roll past that.
This is Resilient Kings Podcast coming to you.
Let's go. Welcome to another episode of Resilient Kings Podcast. I'm your host, Yaron Brown. And on today's episode, we have a high energy, awesome, dynamic guest, MJ Bridges, aka Melvin Bridges Jr., aka Mr. Young and Debt Free. This brother is dynamic. So I don't know. So y'all don't know this, right? So let me clarify this. Y'all don't know that there was a point in time where people actually paid off their student loan debt. I know, earth shattering. They actually paid off their student loan debt. This brother has cleared $97,000 in student loan debt. I ain't gonna tell you how he do it because that's his story to tell. But he went from that to now he's a financial guru for those 30 and under. He is dynamic in everything that he's doing. I'm going to let him share his story. Hopefully, each and every one of you get something out of it. Without further ado, MJ Bridges, thank you for coming along, brother. This has been a long time coming.
Yes, sir. You know what? Happy Friday out there, wherever you at. Whenever you listen to this, just happy day to
That's
you.
it.
And hey, Ron, I really appreciate this, brother. And thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction. And I'm excited to get to the story. And so let's rock it.
So now you are originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right?
No, Racine, Wisconsin.
Racine, Wisconsin. I told him
262, baby, 262.
I told him I was gonna mess with this. So tell me, because I didn't know black people lived in Wisconsin, just so you know, until I met you, brother. Just so you know, I didn't know black people lived in Wisconsin. So I know Milwaukee is the larger city. What makes you rep Racine so hard?
Oh, it's home. Like anywhere you're from, you always stay true to that. And Racine is where I guess my rearing and the values that I have in me, my values of community, my values to family, my values to compassion that I have for people, my values of resilience and being a self advocate for yourself. All that started in Racine. So that's why I rep it hard. We are a small city nestled between Milwaukee and Chicago. Chicago is just an hour south. So if you ever look at the map, I always tell people this, just look at the map. If you notice, Chicago is literally on the Lake Michigan. And if you just go 40, 50 miles north, you're in Wisconsin. So I'm right there across the border. And that's where all the black folks, that's where most of the people of color are nestled. So Wisconsin, the people of color, most of them are right there. That radius between Milwaukee and Chicago. And hey, to add to this, bro, Milwaukee and Chicago, city hall to city hall, are only 90 miles apart. So that's where you get most of your minorities into Wisconsin.
Okay.
And yeah, all that is like that's kind of where we're from.
Okay. So speaking of Racine and how you grew up, how did you grow up, right? How did you grow? What was the story? How did you grow up?
Well, what I like to share is I grew up. I start by three beautiful young ladies. They gave me a lot of my sense and purpose and how I move, the values I talked about. There was first my mom, who gave me a lot of love. She struggled growing up. I only stayed with my mom till I was about 10 years old. My mom and dad were divorced, separated early on. Dad was in and out of prison most of my life, and so very hard on mom. She struggled, and then I moved in with my aunt. So my aunt, during that time period too, I would live with my grandma here and there. My grandma and grandfather, I mean, add to that, they taught me the ideas of Christianity, and they were pastor and first lady. So I grew up in the church.
Okay.
I played the drums, went to Sunday school, all that, and then at my aunt's house, education was like definitely top of the line. She was the one in her generation who went to college. She was the one
Okay.
in the family who had a career. She was in nursing. She became a nursing instructor at the local technical college. So I always valued education, and that kind of like gave me the values I talked about. And then to add a little sim, I was also like very involved in the community. The YMCA Teen Achievers, like all those programs saved me. So I'm a huge advocate of like any program that service low income students, first generation. I was the poster boy for all of it. Youth in government, president of the minority club at school. I was um, a DJ. I'm also known as MJ the DJ where I'm from. I threw a lot of parties. So my aunt, it's funny, real quick, I'll say this. My aunt used to always say, like, she talk like this. I'll be doing her voice. She'd be like, MJ, you get yourself in all this trouble. Your parties are so violent. But I was the dude who went to school and I was like, like a leader at school and like one of the black kids who was excelling. And then on the weekend, it was all debauchery. It was all like,
All
yeah.
ratcheting.
So they couldn't handle me, bro, because I did my work in school, but then I was like a partier on the weekend.
Gotcha. So you worked hard and played hard.
Oh, very much so. That's kind of like been the story of my life.
All right. So for all y'all out there, that's a little gem that he just gave y'all. If y'all gonna party hard, y'all need to work hard. Y'all can't just do one or the other. Y'all got to balance that thing out. So now is your so I always ask this question. The people that you're connected to, are they still alive or have they transitioned?
Like my family and
Yes,
people.
like your grandparents,
Yeah.
your auntie, are they
Oh
still
yeah,
with
I've
us?
been fortunate. Yeah, the ones who primarily raised me, and I got a shout out to my uncle. He had some
Okay.
years in my life before my aunt got divorced. But yeah, they're alive. I've been fortunate. This is on my mom's side. My mom's still here. My
Okay.
aunt is still here. My grandparents on my mom's side. My granddad now he's in a wheelchair, so it's been different. But he's granddaddy 86, and grandma's like 73, 74. So I'm fortunate to have them in my life, and yeah. So yep.
Okay, so now I always do this to every single guest. For everybody that has either transitioned or that's been influential in your life, I want them to live for eternity. So I need you to shout them out by name so that they live in eternity. Because as long as this podcast is going to play, as long as they're going to live, and I plan on it living forever.
Amen. Amen to that, brother. All right, cool. So I'm gonna shout out. What's up, Mama? What's up, Piper Mia? That's what
Okay,
she go by. What's up, Sharonda, Aunt TT? What's up, Grandma Ruby, Genius Scave, my granddaddy, Aldra Scave. What's up to my pops, Melvin Senior? I'm the junior.
okay.
I'm gonna shout out Jeff. I had a few years with him, but he was definitely influential, and so just all love to everyone. Also, it was community members. I like my gear up counselor and her husband, Mr. and Mrs. Kirkwood. It's funny they Alpha, aka
Okay.
Jackson. Yeah, so they had a lot of influence on me. Chris Daniels, Ahmad Kawi, Jane Finkenbein, Stacia Thompson. Those people had a lot of influence on me as well.
All right, so all these different people that you named, I want to give you and make sure, and MJ just gave y'all flowers. So I just want to say thank y'all so much for pouring into this young man and helping him grow up into the man that he is today. So shout out to all of y'all for all the work that you've done to grow him up and make him the man he is today. So now that we got that out the way, let's get into it. So give me the story. Now we knew how you grew up, right? We know what you was into. We know what you weren't into. So you went to college, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. You want to shout out to your college university?
Of course, shout out to Bama State, baby, number one HBCU in the country. What's up? Let's go Hornets! And so, but I loved my time at Alabama State.
Okay.
I, it was like a Netflix movie. I always
How'd you
tell
get there
people
from
like
Wisconsin?
being in school. Everybody asks that. So Black College Tours. So that is a
Okay.
very 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 transformative experience, especially coming from the north, where down here I was used to teach down here in Atlanta in the public school system. I'm like, it was blackity black, and I used
Yeah.
to tell the students like most part like I didn't grow up, with black teachers. I've only had 3 black teachers, K through 12. I had 2 in 3rd grade, and they were all black women. And I had 1 in 12th grade. I've never had a black male teacher, K through 12th grade or anything like that. So seeing black people excel and value education, higher education on that level, going attending an HBCU or visiting one for that matter for the first time was just like mind blowing. And it was a black college tour. Shout out to Mr. Owens with the black college tour, still running hard 20 plus years later from Southeast Wisconsin. And that was kind of like my first experience. And then the Gear Up program. So Gear Up means gaining early awareness readiness for the undergraduate program. It's a national program.
Okay.
Parents out there, if you got Gear Up in your area, find it. But Gear Up also exposed me to believing that college was an option for me.
Okay. So now, so you go to Alabama State. You get into school. What'd you major in?
Majored in first, funny, communications first. Because again, I
Okay.
thought I was going to be a DJ. I thought I was, I was going to 106 in Park after college, like to be
Okay.
a DJ. Like that. I'm like, but then I switched it to math. Ain't that something because of contrast? I was tutoring in the dorm, and I don't know. It's just some got word. There was a professor. I don't know who or what, but it was like you should consider majoring in math. I can't
Math.
tell you who the problem. Yeah, and so I majored in mathematics. So
Okay.
math and math opened the door for a lot of opportunity. I had an internship in it's funny finance, but it was more what we call public finance. I interned in engineering. I've done research. So because of this discipline that I decided and end up, of course, going into education, but becoming a teacher. But yeah, math was my major.
Okay. So math was your major. You got out of school. You came to Atlanta, or you stayed in Alabama?
I got my master's in teaching, so in from University of Indianapolis. So I went to
Okay.
Indy for 3 years. So shout out to
Okay.
Naptown. I had a good time up there. Go Hounds! I don't represent my master's program like nothing, but go Hounds, go you Indy. It's the south side of Indianapolis, a private school, and that's where I went and earned my. I was in a master's program there. Started my teaching career in Indianapolis at Wayne Township. And then from there, after a year, I think I just taught there, or 2 years. 2 years. I taught at Indy, then I moved to Atlanta.
Okay. And then you got here and you continued teaching, or what happened?
Yeah, bruh. Okay. So like, I came out of Indy with like this wild confidence. Like I was like, yeah, I'm about to be this motivational speaker. I started speaking in Indy. I even spoke at a prison. I started doing like these motivational speeches and stuff. And I used to have this YouTube channel called MJ's Monday Motivation. And so I came to Atlanta with a great thought and idea and with no real life plans. I look back at it. And so I was living off of credit cards when I got here. This is where a lot of that really started racking up. But trust me, Atlanta humbled me right away. So I moved here July 2013. October 25th, 2013, I started at the DeKalb County School District at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. High School. So
Okay.
I started like 9 weeks within the school year. I mentioned that because as we get into the story, I'm gonna come back to that date
Now
because that really.
I was a counselor at Martin Luther King Jr. High School. I was a school counselor over there. I was over 504s, and I was over the part of the counseling department. I knew Dr. James. I was there when Everett Patrick was there.
Give me a year.
Maybe 2011, 2000, 10, 11.
I was there 13, 14.
So I had left just before you got there.
Oh, that is wild.
That's
Okay,
crazy.
yeah. I
That's
didn't
crazy.
know
Okay,
that. Yeah.
so you at MLK High School, and then
Yep, for that year. And
okay,
then I ended up leaving the cabin with a Grady Midtown High now and for APS. So I taught at Grady for 2 years.
oh man, Grady ain't called Grady no more.
No, it's Midtown High School now. And
Oh,
so
dude.
it's
Okay.
Midtown High. And then
Okay.
I quit my job again. And then this when Young and Debt Free, I was like, yo, I got something going. I was in the middle of my debt free journey then. And then I went No, humble me again. I went right back to work months later, November 2016, back for the cab. But I was working for this when I met you around years a little bit right after that. I was working for um, Flex Academy, which was the online program. It used to be for the cab. They have renamed it, and it became Flex Academy. Oh, it was the best job ever. Oh, it was such a good job because we were so under the radar. And so, oh god, what it was like stealing almost. We were because it was only like 8 of us, two teachers per course subject. The kids were online. We didn't see, but it was cool because it was hybrid. So we went into the. So I used to go to so some days like Friday, my schedule may be like I'm in the office 8 to 10:30. I
Okay.
will leave from 11 till 2. I'm going from Dunwoody High to meet up with 4 students, help them out, then Southwest DeKalb, and then whatever. And then, yeah, it
Then
was
you
that
done.
cool. But
Okay.
it was that cool. But
So hold on a minute. Let's go back because you said something that was key. You said I
mhm.
started on my young and debt free journey. So what
Okay,
happened
let's
during
get
that
into it.
time?
When I went, okay, yes, that's right. That's what we're here for, right? So when I went to MLK, I had it was that January 10 years ago, 2014. Dang, it's crazy. I'll be almost 11. I was on my way to work. It was dramatic. And you remember that winter was like the wild winter. That was the
Yes.
snow apocalypse. That
Yep.
okay. So it was cold. Remember that was a cold winter. It was
Yes.
yeah, two back to back. As soon as I moved here, I was like, I didn't know Atlanta was this cold. So I remember it was a cold day. It was
Uh-huh.
rainy in the morning, and my car light, gas light lit up, and I was on the famous street, Wesley Chapel, and I couldn't afford to put gas in my car. And so I'm coming from I've always lived kind of the downtown, midtown area, and I was coming from that area, and it was at that moment where I was like, I suck at money. Like, and I put myself all into this bind, and I've been doing this for years, like always put myself into this wasting whatever, just spending money, doing stuff with money. And it was that weekend when I came home and I kind of what I say, put it on the floor. And I went annualcreditreport.com, put up all my accounts, and I just really looked at how much debt I had built up, like accumulated, and mostly from credit cards. So I know in the introduction you said loans, student loans. Student loans only had about 28 to 30,000 of that. I had another about 12 to 14 on a car, and the rest were credit cards. I had a lot of credit card debt that I had built up starting when I was like 18.
Did your
Mhm.
parents ever or your auntie, did anybody ever talk to you about finances? Because in our community, we don't really talk about finances like that. Like we don't really talk about how to use your money effectively, right? We oftentimes are living a paycheck to paycheck, or often living in a place where of just desire and need, or we just trying to make it. Did anybody talk to you about how to use money, how money works?
No. So it was always more of when I look back at it, you just the conversation was like, on my grandma's side, putting money tithing. So you learned that. Um, on my aunt, I saw the credit card, so you a kid in the early 2000s, that was like the magic wand, if you will. It was like,
Because you
oh,
never
like,
saw money changing hands. You saw somebody swiping something and
yeah,
get.
they
Yep.
rich. That's what you was kind of like concepted, like, oh, they got money. And so it was all of that. And so we that's what we just grew up on. That's all I kind of knew about money, right? That's what I knew about money. So never a formal conversation.
Gotcha. So you end up not having enough money for gas. Did you ultimately find some money, or what ended up happening? Would you make it
I
home?
made it home, right? My bad, y'all. I made it home. So that was that. And then it was that weekend where I was like, yo, I owned it. So one powerful thing was that owning your mistakes, not owning your mistakes and just owning where you at with life, like the hand that you have, and not blaming anything. So I never went back to blame my parents or blame that I didn't have this or I didn't have that formal conversation. It was like, no, this is my responsibility, I'm going to take care of it. And so that's when I embarked on my journey. And that next month I had 4 jobs. It was wild. I was teaching at MLK. I had a 7th hour prep, so I used to leave a little early. I would shoot out like 15 minutes under the radar, and because I had to drive on 20 to the west side, I was tutoring. I think at Candidly. It was like a K through 6. I don't know. It's like a charter school, Candidly, I think it's called. I would tutor there like Tuesday and Thursday evenings. I will also tutor like Wednesday way and no, that was when I was at Grady. So this is I'm still talking about spring 2014, January through May. Yeah, I then I got a job at Sweet Lounge. So this when Sweet Lounge was just kind of reopened. I was a part of that new phase. It used to be called Lucky Lounge or something. So I at that point I was like a part of like the second wave of new employees when they were trying to figure out this crazy see what it is now. I was there on Saturdays all day, like 7 p.m. to like 4 in the morning. I had a good time, y'all. But that was just that money I was just using was like it was tip money. I was just a busser, like bussing tables and like I would have no big title.
So I want y'all to hear this, right? This is important to hear. This man had a master's degree in education and he was bussing tables from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. in the morning trying to go get it. And so goes back. So I want y'all to understand that's a resilient king tip right there, right? This indicates his resilience that he wasn't going to be willing to give up or stop doing what he needed to do because he knew he had a plan. That's the other part about this. You got to have a plan. He was on a mission to be young and debt free, right? So you do that. So you do that. You get these 4 jobs. Are you starting to see your debt decrease at this point?
Yeah, yeah. And I just did. I always tell people like the nothing. It was nothing astronomical. It was I was just focused on one day at a time. They call it the debt snowball. The shout out to Dave Ramsey with that term, and I was just focused on one day at a time. So my money from MLK, then the money from the two tutoring jobs because it was Candesi, and then it was on the weekend, Saturday mornings. I remember it was at South Atlanta High School and I'd be at Booker T. Washington through another program I was working for, and then Sweet Lounge. The Sweet Lounge money was more of like my lunch money, my gas money. It was just $70, $80 here, and I also had a check that came with it. But that was my fun job because I was working so many hours, 60 plus hours, 70 hours during the week. I went to Sweet to have fun, and it was a good time. And so I needed to make more money. So fall 2014, APS was paying more, and it was right down the street from my house, the apartment I was at here in Midtown. And so got a job, increased my income. I continued to tutor. I continued to work at Sweet Lounge. I worked for easily about 15 to 18 months, 4 jobs, from 14 into going into 15. I did not go on my line trip this year. If you know me, I'm huge on my line, and we've been fortunate to do these trips every year. But that's the first year I missed my line trip. No, it wasn't. I missed it the year before, or was that year? I can't remember. But yeah, but it was during because of the debt free journey. I'm trying to think what else. Didn't go home a lot to Wisconsin. Just cut my expenses. I avoided Lenox Mall. I would start reselling my clothes back to thrift stores, and that got me pretty far for about 2 years. Now,
Okay.
after my first year, I made a post that I eliminated about $20,000 on
Okay.
Facebook, and it was a fraternity brother. Shout out to Alpha Phi Alpha. It was a
Shout
fraternity
out to
brother who
Alpha
was
Phi
in
Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Shout out.
and so he called me from Indy and he was like, "That's what you should be doing," because he knew about my because I put all that motivational stuff down because I was focused on my finances. So he was
Okay.
like,
Okay.
"That's what you should be doing." So this is how he knew that. He knew I like to speak. He knew I like to talk, tell stories, try to motivate people. And he was like, "You should be teaching that." Like, and I was like, "What?" He was like, "How did you just eliminate 20,000?" I'm like, "I'm working and I'm in Void and going to brunch." And I'm like, "Stop." And like,
And
and
if you
I
know
didn't think
Atlanta is a brunch spot.
and it's ridiculous because it became like 12.99 to like 40.99, $60, all within a few years. The brunch is
Yep.
wild. So I I I didn't process what he was talking about. He works for a lot of financial advisors and stuff. He's big into the wealth building industry, and he said I have a lot of people that I manage their wealth millions of dollars, and they're always nervous to hand their wealth to their heirs, to the young
Hmm.
folks, to their kids, because they don't have any money management skills. He's like, you could teach them the skills that you built to how to, and I ain't like, what? So whatever, kept moving forward, because I feel like that was like fall of 15. And then it was, so I started follow again, y'all got to think about this, when social media like IG started coming around,
Yep.
popping. People are creating brands. You kind of watching people that you know, that you just saw, like, I don't know, at the park or something, and you like, oh, you're charging people to do XYZ. Oh, you selling stuff on Instagram. Oh, this is like the thought that people could create their own brand and company was starting to brew, right?
Absolutely.
And
Okay.
so I started following people like on YouTube. This when the fire movement was happening in the personal finance industry, and so I got inspired, and I was like, I have the story. I'm still on my debt free journey. I'm a teacher. I have the story. Maybe I could charge for this and figure some things out. I wasn't passionate about this, initially at all.
Okay.
I was just like, okay. So I started Young and Debt Free June 2016 as a blog. Hmm.
And so you started blogging about this journey, and
Hmm.
at that time
I wasn't debt free yet.
you were over
I wasn't
twenty
debt free yet.
thousand
I was
by that.
over 20. Around that time, I had to be near probably even 30, 40,
Okay, so
and
you was at 30 or
62,000.
$40,000. When did you become faithful in your journey?
When I first got paid. Okay, that was something.
That's
Hey,
real. That's real.
uh,
That's
I said,
real.
"Oh, like people gonna pay me to do this?" But it was I had a few like benchmark moments, if you will, or moments that helped me get to even get paid. So in summer 2016, when I started this, I quit my job again, even though I still had some debt left. Again, super ambitious without a plan. I needed to get out the classroom, and focus on finishing. I was writing a book at the time about this, and that later that summer, I did not get teacher loan forgiveness, and I was under the impression that I was going to get 17,500 eliminated because I taught high school math. If you teach um, secondary math, science, or special ed, and you teach 5 consecutive, is the word, years in basically a public school, a high needs school. Most public schools are high needs. That's teacher loan forgiveness. The government will eliminate 17,500 of your public loans if you have, public loans from the U.S. government. So I was anticipating that. I didn't get it. I didn't get it because of, remember I told y'all I didn't start teaching till October 25th.
Yep.
That 9-week gap between August and October 25th of 2013, when I moved down here, that 9-week gap disqualified me from getting
Oh
teacher.
no.
Bruh, what? I was crying in the inside. I was like distraught, like in shock for about, it was some days before I got over it. Now I still pressed forward. I was talking to someone, he was kind of illegal. I didn't fully get a lawyer, and I think about it. I wish I did, but no, I don't. I don't wish I did, because my journey wouldn't be what it is. But like, I still, the Georgia Department of Ed backed me up, because on their site, working a academic year is if you work 63% of the calendar year
Oh,
of
I
the
didn't know that.
calendar. The
Okay.
180. So I worked 72% of it. I started October 25th. So my application, now this is like fall 16. I'm just about to start back in DeKalb for Flex
Okay.
Academy now. I went back to work again, same store. Went back to work 3 months later. Um, and I was the Georgia Department of Ed, fall 16 going into spring 17. They actually backed me up through the federal and approved. So my application went further in the federal government. But the last office, or whoever they are, and middle finger to them, they denied me. Like still denied me at the end, and said no, that you have a 9-week gap. It's not considered consecutive. And yeah, so that hurt me. And that fired me up though, to where I was like, people need to know about this. Like people need to know. You got to think also that same year, this a little different. Try to follow me. The research came out, I think later that year or going into 2018, that people who apply for public service loan forgiveness, that's different. Teacher, the 99% of the people applied never got it because of discrepancy with the application process. Because public service loan forgiveness that kicked off in 2007. And remember, you have to teach 10, you have to be in public service, not teach, do anything. You can be a garbage man, but you work for the city and you had student loans and they were federal. And as long as you paid your 120, that whatever balance you have left, they would have eliminated it. Well, 99% of the people who, because it was 10 years later, 2007 to 2017, going to 18, did not. So I'm seeing all this. I'm like, man, I'm like, okay, I'm fired up even more.
Okay.
So I gave
Okay.
my first presentation. So I gave my first presentation spring of 17 at Lenox Mall. At the time I was done with like 50,000. Still had some debt clearly. And that was my first time I felt inspired and I guess faithful. And it went into a year later, I believe in 18, is when Clark Atlanta University, shout out to the Panthers. Someone saw me on my IG and what I was talking about is showing my debt free journey, and they hired me to speak, and they got me together over there. They was like, "Yo, man, you need to do this, do this, do this, create a media, this, create that, create that, create that," and they
Wow.
first paid me.
So
Yeah,
they
and
poured they
that
poured into you.
they did, and I didn't. And quickly, I know I'm talking a lot. I didn't know though when I did my presentation on Linux Small, I was like everybody was adults. I was focused on adults, young adults before 30, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure it out. But prior to that, Tierra's, I think Clemens, for Movers and Pacers, shout her out. She asked me to speak to her freshman class at Georgia Tech. So I did a presentation there, and it was at that moment where I was like, oh, I want to focus on college students.
Go.
And
Oh,
then,
okay. I got you.
yeah, I'm sorry. Then about 9 months later, Clark Atlanta randomly lands in my inbox, and they paid me. So that's how I went from focusing on adults to college students.
Shout out to
And
Clark Atlanta University for paying this brother.
shout
Shout
out,
out to them.
man.
First payment, first check. You got a copy of that check?
Oh no,
Oh,
no,
come
I gotta
on. How you not have a copy of your first check?
I probably got some stuff though. I got all
It
kinds of stuff I
wasn't
gotta go through. Yeah, I gotta
so,
go through my
all right.
email. I got Miss Landers. Yeah.
I know that we are our time is running short for this episode. Do you have any
Oh, we gonna keep
inspiration that you
talking.
want to provide these young people out here about being young and debt free, or just being debt free? Anything you want to say to them?
Yeah, my biggest, I think my biggest success, and it's maybe a little top, is just think about really your vision. Think about maybe where you want to be 5, 10 years from now. Try to write a vision of yourself where money, or in particular debt, is not an issue. And write that out. Take time. I'm a coffee shop person. Go to a coffee shop. Go to somewhere in your house, wherever is that place where you can kind of zen vibe out and write in detail as if it was the present day your life without debt being a crutch. Like, what would you be doing? What do you smell like? Who are you with? What activities are you participating in? What is it like getting up out of bed? Do you have more time to exercise? Money is not bogging you down. You have more time to do those hobbies that you really like to do when you was 13, 14 years old. That's still in you somewhere. What are those things that you would like to do? Write that all out for 7 minutes. Take a pen, don't drop it. Just write as detail, use those adjectives as much as you can about that day. And that vision is what kept me inspired and what kept me inspired because I was like, man, if I can get rid of my debt, I could break out, become an entrepreneur, a speaker, like I originally moved to Atlanta to be. Um, I could have more time to maybe exercise and just focus on some of those talents and other gifts that I have. The beautiful part, that's what I want to say. Yep.
Okay, fantastic,
Mhm.
outstanding. So those are Mr. Young and Debt Free's departing words. I'm gonna leave it there. This has been Resilient Kings Podcast. Let's go.